Sony and Spidey, Round 2. Hey everybody, and thanks for clicking on this video and checking out my channel, and join me for another Spider-Man review. Leading up to Spider-Man Far From Home, we're looking back at all the live-action Sony Spider-Man films in preparation for the newest Spider-Man film releasing next month. So far we have covered the Raimi films, so now we're moving on to Marc Webb's set of films. All 2 of them. If you'd like to talk about these movies with me, I welcome you to do so, and I'd love for you to do so. Just put all your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below, and let's get a fun conversation going. And with all that out of the way, let's talk about Marc Webb's first entry into his set of Spider-Man films with The Amazing Spider-Man. So after Spider-Man 3 didn't exactly work out, and with the director Sam Raimi calling it quits, Sony had to make a new Spider-Man film before the rights reverted back to Marvel. So they got Marc Webb, director of the romance film 500 Days of Summer, which is one of my favorite romantic films of all time, to come on and do a new reboot of the Spider-Man film series. Our Peter Parker this time around is played by Andrew Garfield. Love interest is Gwen Stacy of Emma Stone. Sally Field plays Aunt May. Martin Sheen plays Uncle Ben. And our villain is Dr. Connors, aka the Lizard, played by Rhys Ifans. That guy. The Amazing Spider-Man tells the story of Peter Parker getting bitten by the radioactive spider, becoming Spider-Man, and learning that great power comes great responsibility when he has to face off against the newest villain to hit New York City in the Lizard. So The Amazing Spider-Man was marketed as the untold story. We were going to find out about Peter's parents' origins, what happened to them, who they were, and the film starts off setting up this mystery of who Peter's parents were, what they did. They kind of have this mysterious background to them. And this setup with Peter Parker's parents really sets it apart from the Raimi trilogy. But after they do the setup, the story of where Peter Parker's parents are and who they were doesn't really feel like it goes anywhere. It kind of gets abandoned. And we kind of just focus on a lot of the Spider-Man stuff that we've seen before. Peter Parker getting his powers, Peter Parker falling in love with a girl, having to learn great power comes great responsibility with those powers. So how does The Amazing Spider-Man handle these quintessential aspects of the Spider-Man story? Well, let's start off with Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker. Peter Parker in this movie is very different from Tobey Maguire's portrayal of Peter Parker, which I think is a good thing. It makes the performances and the actors very distinct to their series of films as Spider-Man, and makes them very unique as their Spider-Mans. This time around, I like that they don't put Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker in a box. He's able to have a lot of different abilities and skills and hobbies. He's a photographer, he skateboards, really smart, but he's also kind of rebellious and cool, which to me makes him a less relatable Peter Parker since he can kind of do everything. But it's also kind of cool to see a Peter Parker that isn't just one stereotypical bookworm. He can do multiple stuff and he can have several different interests, as opposed to just having one identity in science and being the nerd of the school. And the romantic relationship between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone as Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy I actually really like in this film. They have much more chemistry than Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst did, and their relationship is much more adorable, intriguing. It feels very clear to me that this is why Marc Webb was chosen to do The Amazing Spider-Man, is because he's really good with the romantic stuff, as we've seen in 500 Days of Summer. He brings that kind of romantic passion and energy over into The Amazing Spider-Man. As far as a teen romantic movie goes with The Amazing Spider-Man, I like that portion of the film. As a Spider-Man movie though, I don't always feel like The Amazing Spider-Man succeeds in telling the Spider-Man story. Where The Amazing Spider-Man really finds its strength is with the romance of Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield are great together. Those characters are really great to see together. You're rooting for them. They're a really adorable couple. But when it comes to the Spider-Man stuff, I just feel like this movie kind of misses the mark. The biggest thing that I see with this is the quintessential with great power comes great responsibility lesson that Peter Parker learns from Uncle Ben. The reason Peter Parker has become Spider-Man and has taken the responsibility of being a crime fighter as Spider-Man is all because of Uncle Ben's death and the last words that he heard from Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility. That has been the motivation for Spider-Man and the reason of his existence, really. In this movie, Peter Parker and Uncle Ben, played by Andrew Garfield, and Martin Sheen, they have a great dynamic. They have a really nice relationship at the start of the film. But the way that Uncle Ben dies doesn't really impact as much as it did in the Raimi movies for me, because the way that Uncle Ben dies is he decides to go for the gun. He isn't really an innocent bystander. He tries to be heroic. He also comes across as stupid in this moment by going for the gun after an armed criminal. So the way that he dies doesn't feel like it impacts me as much as it does with Peter Parker letting a criminal go. Also, the way that they incorporate the great power comes great responsibility in this movie,
that if you could do good things for other people, you had a moral obligation to do those things. That's what's at stake here. Not choice, responsibility.
I never feel like those words impacted Peter. I never feel like those are the reasons that he becomes Spider-Man. The whole reason that he decides to become Spider-Man and the whole great responsibility feeling that he gets is because he helped create the Lizard by giving the algorithm to Dr. Connors. The movie never really feels like he becomes Spider-Man because of Uncle Ben's death. In fact, after Uncle Ben's death, he goes on a revenge streak. He's looking for the guy who killed Uncle Ben. He's on a vengeful mission, and then eventually he just kind of drops it. Like, he's on the hunt, and then it kind of just goes into a different direction, and he kind of stops looking for Uncle Ben's killer. It doesn't really feel natural. It just kind of feels like the movie forgot about what Peter was doing with that subplot, and it just kind of ditches it. And talk about Dr. Connors as the villain. I didn't really like the villain of Dr. Connors and the Lizard in this movie very much. He's the connection to Peter Parker's past and his parents, and that's kind of where the little nuggets of information of Peter Parker's parents and what they did kind of comes from, but it doesn't really last throughout the entire movie. In fact, like the revenge sequence of Peter Parker looking for Uncle Ben's killer, it kind of feels like it gets abandoned as well. The whole Peter Parker and the mystery of his parents, as the more Spider-Man stuff in the Spider-Man origin story develops. The reason that I don't really like the Lizard and Dr. Connors in this movie is mostly because the tone and the setting and the feel of the movie that Marc Webb sets up for this movie, it feels like they're trying to do a Batman Begins, make it very grounded, realistic, and make it feel like Spider-Man in the real world. If this realistically happened to someone, this is how it would be. And so when you throw in a big CGI lizard into this world, which the CGI on the lizard looks really good, I don't always feel like the lizard fits in the world that they set up. It just feels completely out of place, and it just never feels like it belongs in this grounded world and this tone that the movie set up. At least to me it doesn't. And the villain also has a very weak motivation. I really like the stuff with Dr. Connors when he's human and you see him trying to get his arm back. He wants to regrow his arm. All that stuff I really find deep and powerful. It gives Dr. Connors some sympathy. But as soon as he tries out the serum and he becomes the Lizard, the character is all of a sudden very less interesting to me because he just gets like this insanity personality and he gets insane. Very similar to Norman Osborn and all the other villains in the Sam Raimi trilogy. He just becomes insane and crazy. And he has this plan to turn everyone else into lizards. It just never feels like Dr. Connors and the Lizard fits in the world that they set up for this movie. Also, the writing for the Lizard just feels really lazy. I just never get invested in the villain. I don't think he's that great of a villain. But all that being said, The Amazing Spider-Man is not a bad movie in my opinion. I think as a Spider-Man movie, it's alright. Where it really shines is with the romance stuff, and I always feel like the Spider-Man stuff is actually just like in the back of the movie's mind. What the movie really wants to do is tell a teen romance movie in high school. And then secondary to that, they want to add in the Spider-Man stuff because they have to, because it's a Spider-Man movie. And so because of that, I don't always feel like this movie succeeds as a Spider-Man film. But I wouldn't say that it's not entertaining or good. There is a lot in The Amazing Spider-Man that I do like. Like when Peter gets his powers, I do like how they kind of look at that in a real world situation and they look at it as horrific. I like the scenes where he doesn't know his own strength and he's destroying his clock in his bathroom. And he's in his room kind of feeling like he's going insane because he doesn't know what's happening to them. That's something the Raimi films never did. They never explored Peter looking into his powers. He always just kind of accepted them right away. Peter Parker in this movie is very freaked out by them before he starts to learn, adjust, and lean into them. And I like how they looked at that in the origin story in this movie. And when Andrew Garfield is Spider-Man, he's a really good Spider-Man. I think he's a lot of fun. I think he pulls off the snarky, sarcastic humor that Spider-Man has very well. And the Spider-Man stuff swinging through the city and fighting a lizard does look really good. I just always feel like the tone and the setting always conflicts with what they set up. And then what they incorporate later on into the film. Not an amazing Spider-Man movie, but one that I do enjoy watching and one that I do think is okay. Anyway guys, those are my thoughts and opinions on Marc Webb's first The Amazing Spider-Man. But what did you think about The Amazing Spider-Man movie? Comment down below, let me know. I want to know all your thoughts and opinions about this movie. And guys, thanks again for clicking on this video and checking out my channel. And I'll be back very soon to talk about the sequel, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. If you'd like to join me talking about that movie, I welcome you to do so and I'd love for you to do so. Once again, my name's Zachary Milne. Thank you for talking movies with me and hope you have yourself a great day.